Hey guys, Scott Fishman here for Wrestling Inc. And we have one of the rising stars of Ring of Honor right now. He just had a big milestone on Ring of Honor television, so we thought, what better way to talk for someone to talk about it? From Shane Taylor Promotions himself, the big bad kaiju, O'Shea Edwards. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Good. I mean, where did that start off? Just where did that nickname come from? Kind of how that developed. I got to
Yeah,
know
man.
about that.
I'm a big fan of trying to differentiate from the crowd. Like I enjoy being just one of one. And in wrestling, everybody calls themselves a monster or whatever. Well, the only thing bigger than the monster himself is really just the genre itself. For those who don't know, kaiju is a genre of movie that's like King Kong, Godzilla, of Jaws to actually be considered a kaiju. In Japanese, it's roughly translated into large or strange monster. So it kind of gives me a little bit of leeway in terms of like what I can do, what I can't do. And then when you add big bad kaiju to it, it really just flows off the tongue when you say it. The coolest part is one of the things of when when you say the moniker, I'm like name another one, then name another person who's doing it, and you can't. I'm like because I'm one of one. Like that was the whole point.
Right, right. And we do have Kong versus Godzilla coming out too, so
I will be there front and center for that too.
so reading up on your history, you have an incredible background. I mean, with all the things that you've done as a firefighter in the military and things like that. When was the moment that you really wanted to pursue wrestling? Was there a person that kind of inspired you that you watched on television whose story that kind of inspired you? I mean, what was that moment like that you wanted to kind of pursue this, go all in with it per se?
It was really the first thing I got into the ring. The It was something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I never really knew how to even get into it. I almost psyched myself out of it just because I was like, oh man, maybe am I too late? You know, I've played football my entire up to that point, played football my entire life. Guys who've made it to the pros, even guys who never made it to the pros, they've been playing since they were like 8, 9 years old, and so they spent a whole life doing it. But it was just one of those things. I think the first time I got into the ring and how fluid I felt confident. And I tell people all the time, I was like, I was a pretty good football player, but I'm a much better wrestler than I was a football player.
Hmm.
And some people are like, that's scary. And I'm like, yeah, like, I got all the way to college, playing football. So imagine how far I'm going to get just wrestling. I had guys that I looked up to. I had matches that I loved to watch. But it was always that little dream I kind of kept like hidden away from everybody else because I never want somebody to be like, nah, man, that's stupid. So, you know, when I finally got the opportunity to do it, man, I never do 6 years ago, if you would have told me, yeah, you'd be here, I would have called you a liar. Like, nah, man, get out of here. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see what it took. And once I got started, I'm like, well, I have a feeling I'll be doing this for a while now. And here we are.
Well, the wrestling business is so hard. I mean, was there ever a point where you kind of were considering if this was worth pursuing, continue to pursue, whether it was an injury that happened or a bad experience with a promoter or just something happened behind the scenes or
Honestly, I guess I'm lucky in that sense. I've never really felt as if I've never had a day where I like this isn't what I want to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had bad days. I've had interactions with people where I'm just like, ugh, like but never once have I ever felt like this isn't what I wanted to do. This isn't where I want to be. This isn't anything that was ever going to deter me. Like I'm really stubborn. Like you ask my girlfriend, like I'm really stubborn, and and they'll tell you like when he wants to do something, he's gonna go do it. Like there's no if, ands, or buts. Like he's gonna go do it. And especially if you tell him that he's not gonna do it, yeah, now he's gonna prove you wrong. And if anything, it was one of those things of like I worked better with a chip on my shoulder. So it was nothing that was ever somebody's going to tell me I can't do something or I don't do this anymore. But I've had people, kind of like give me the snide remark of like, oh man, no major promotion will ever look at you. And I kind of gave him like the old, oh, is that right? Okay, watch this. And I tell people, man, spite's a hell of a motivator, man. It gets people very far. For me, though, the chip on my shoulder is big enough where I can take it off, beat you over the head with it, then put it back, and then keep it moving.
Um, Tell me about as far as working in the dojo, the Ring of Honor
Mhm.
dojo, but then you have these big opportunities coming up. But then the world shuts down, kind of puts everything on pause. Just tell me what those months were like, and just what kind of got you through to kind of stay motivated and know that you're going to come out of the other side and that the opportunity would eventually come.
Right. Getting to the dojo, man, was humbling. Um, I always equate everything back to football, so excuse me. Um, but for me, it's like when you're in high school and you're playing a sport, and you're the man on that team, or or whoever, you run it, and then all of a sudden you go to college, and then you realize that everybody on that team was the man back in, even the scrubbies of scrub guy on that team was the man in high school. And now you're in, and so now you're on a team full of guys who are like, oh man, I'm the dude. And so coming up to the dojo was like that, where I had to realize quick that, hey, I'm not as good as I thought I was, because these guys have been in the dojo longer than me. They have like a year jump. So it's like, all right, man, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna just be like, well, they've had a year, so it's whatever, or are you going to step your game up? So for me, it was time to put up or shut up, especially the fact that I've kind of like slid all my chips into the table here, and I'm like, hey boys, I'm all in. So it's just like, all right, well, let's get to work. And for a while, like, yeah, I was gaining a lot of traction, and a lot of, not a lot of guys move from one region of the world, like from Atlanta, and then I moved to Maryland. Now I'm in the Mid Atlantic, and then so now I can make these jumps to the Midwest and to the Northeast and all that
Smart.
good stuff.
Hmm.
Right. And then literally within less than 8 months, I turn, and this is my ego talking, but it's whatever. I take a region that really didn't have a lot of like premier wrestling, and then put them on the map of, this is the DMV. This is what we do, and if you got something to say, man, come over here. Like, we got something for you. There's a host of guys and girls and everybody in between who were like, yeah, like, this is what we do here. Like,
Hmm.
just because you don't know my name doesn't mean I'm not good at it. And we got a chance to like put that on screen for everybody to see, and and it was great. And then the world shut down. And for a while, man, life sucked. Life was rough, because you didn't know what to do. Last year for WrestleMania week, man, I had 7 working on 8 book. I mean, it spent like 4 days. I had like 8 bookings, like
Wow.
ready to go, and they were named like some really big names, and I was really excited. And you watched it just disappear, and you had nothing to do with
Mm.
it. Like, it'd be one thing if I said something or I did something and if people started not booking me anymore. But I was just like, I didn't do anything. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And it was a time to try to, I call it a giant reset, man. The race now started over and brought everybody back to the starting line. And so that downtime that everyone had, for me, it was like, okay, what am I going to do while I'm kind of sitting here waiting? Um, Everybody's at the same point now. Everyone has to start over again. So for me, it was when the race starts again, and it has, but not too much to an extent that we want. But once this race starts moving again to the speed that it was, what type of vehicle are you going to be in? Are you going to just be walking, running, or are you going to be in a car, or are you going to be one of those doing a rocket ship? And for me, it was just like, nah, man, I'm going to get a rocket ship. Like, I'm going to build me a rocket ship. And so, like, that time, man, I got my body in some of the best shape I've ever been in. I was already good, like, talking, but I wanted to do more with it. So, Twitter makes the world go around nowadays. So it was one of those things of like, yeah, man, let's start working on these promos. Let's start making them better. Let's start getting the production better. Let's start, let's all the things that you don't see in front of a screen, let's start working on that stuff. So, the lighting got better, the camera got better, the microphone got better. I started writing scripts, building sets because okay, it was the joke was, hey man, are you trying to win an Academy Award? And I was like, yes, I am. I'm trying to win an Academy Award. And I wanted to set the bar of like, all right, guys, this is what we can do with a cell phone, like so beat it. And it's been great to see what like guys come up with, and it's been great to see what people put out there, and it makes me smile because I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I gotta keep working here, so we're gonna
Mhm.
be all right.
And during that time, you also, I read your piece in Outsports, just, being comfortable who you are, but also not letting things define you, being successful on your own merits, but also being representative for a community. It's such an important community that deserves to be seen as well. Why was it the right time during that period to kind of show your truth and it's how freeing was that for you, and just what kind of response did you get from it?
It was wrestling allowed me the opportunity to be who I want to be. That's what wrestling is like all the way around. You get to be the one person you always wanted to be. I always knew who I was. I was never really afforded the opportunity to really express it. You know, I love being a fireman, but I tell people every time like I knew what it was. And sometimes, it was like, how much is it worth? At the time, man, I was out, I'm in the middle of a career, and I'm like, this is not the great time for me. Just because I know who I'm in the room with, and it's one of the things, man. Reading the room comes in important. Like people don't understand, it's a very underestimated skill. They're learning how to read a room, and so it was one of the things where I could really like, you know, be out there to let everybody know who I was. Those who needed to know, knew, but that wasn't the time. It wasn't until I could finally step away from that type of environment, and it wasn't until I was able to just like be able to really explore, mentally and spiritually who I was
Mhm.
before I can finally come out there and like live my truth. And since then, it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done. There hasn't been a single negative word, and if there has been, it hasn't been to my face. So yeah, I got that going for me. Um, but at the same time, man, I've had a few people come up to me and like, hey, man, I appreciate that. Like, thank you so much. It's hard. I understand it's hard. But it without coming off as corny or try like, but it gets better. It does. It gets better. But once again, though, I tell people like, but it doesn't define who I am.
Mhm.
I'm still trying to make it like everybody else. I just I still happen to be out. That's pretty much about it.
Hopefully one day it won't be as big of a deal. I mean, but
Yeah,
as more and more stories come out, everyone helps inspire someone else, and it's a trickle down effect, I think. So
yeah.
it's
If
really great and inspiring to see,
and if
all
you could
these.
just help just one, like that's enough. Like
Yeah,
that, cool.
for
I
sure.
can live with that.
So, you recently had your match with Sledge, who recently got signed, and he's been waiting. I talked to him a couple months ago, just waiting in the wings for his big opportunity. So you guys went out there, you got the full platform, and you got the minutes to kind of go at it and put show your skills and everything that you guys. It's almost like a big culmination of all the hard work that you both put in. I think it was a perfect matchup considering your stories and your background. So tell me what that match meant to you, and kind of how that kind of helped jumpstart what's going to be coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, man, that was for me. It was validation. Um, it's something we all kind of seek. Maybe not everybody maybe like outwardly say it, but to an extent, we all seek that little bit of validation. For me, it was the validation of man, all those years, all those miles, all the missed meals, the sleepless nights, and traveling here, only to have to go back to your regular job on Monday. It was the start of it. It was something that's like, okay, it was worth it. It was all worth it. Um, it's just the beginning. It's I call it. one of my highest highs, because I told myself and I told the world, I was like, I'm going to be in the middle of this ring. Like, you just watch what I'm about to do. Like, I'm going to be here. There's nobody going to stop me but me, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So for me, it was one of those told you so type moments. But it's I was nervous, like not gonna lie, like who isn't? It's like the kid in the NFL first game. It's like, man, get that first snap out the way. All right, we're gonna be okay. Um, Once the music hit, once the bell rang, I didn't think about it anymore. I'm here to go. It's time to go to work, man. Let's it's real easy to talk crap, but that bell's got to ring. Now you got to back it all up. And so I was like, hey man, I don't need help looking dumb. I can do it all by myself. So I'm like, no, we're gonna do this today.
Hmm.
But it felt good to get it out there. It felt good to finally see it. I had to keep my mouth shut a long time about it,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
got to
was
be hard.
hard. That was very hard. I wanted to tell the world about it, but it's like, hey man, like when this happens, this is gonna be huge. And so when it finally happened, man, I was like, yo, this is awesome. My mother and my father got to see me wrestle on TV.
Awesome. That's
That was a
awesome.
big deal. That was a real big deal. Like my mother cried. She was like, "You've been saying this for years, and it's like, and you did it." And I was like, "Ma, I don't know what to do." She was like, "There's nothing you need to do. Like you did it." So that was, like I said, something like that's a big deal. I love my family. They've been my diehards. They've been my day one since the first I just stepped in. I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna wrestle. They're like, okay. They were never been like, that's stupid. No, they just like, no,
That's
if that's
great.
what you do, go for it, be happy. So, getting a chance to get in the ring with Sledge and like throw down and all that good stuff was fun. To hear the feedback from everybody um was amazing, just because I have such blinders on with that stuff. So when people come to me like, yo, that was great, man. You guys did everything. I was like, really? For real? I'm like, all right, man, yeah, it's whatever. But it's I now that I've done it once, I just want to do it again.
It's addicting.
It
Um,
is.
and then you're, part of with Shane Taylor, you're working with him, someone who's had such a journey. Right now, he's going for the Ring of Honor championship as we're talking here. Talk about that. Representation is so big right now, and you guys with Shane Taylor Promotions, just talk about how cool it is to have this platform here with with Black History Month being here, and just showing this powerful group, and maybe showing people at home, maybe inspiring them as well. So what is it like for you to be a part of it? So now into your career, just getting started, and kind of that's helped instill kind of confidence within you that you may have not had before.
Yeah, man. We have to, as individuals, we have to be the change we inspire to see. And it's talk is cheap, so everyone does it. But only a select few actually go out there and do it. Growing up, at least watching wrestling, there wasn't really a lot of, I guess, black main eventers at the time, and the wrestlers of color that were shown on TV were either like just exaggerated stereotypes of themselves, or they were just jokes. And I'm not like knocking it. I get it. For what the time was, like I understand it. Like no, I completely get it. I was like, but I always aspire that like people can be more than just a stereotype, or just a skit or character. Um, and of course, as like wrestling started to transform and start to evolve, and it got a little better, and this, that, and the other, and of course, like my taste in wrestling changed and all that good stuff. But I knew when I started wrestling and I really started to get into it, that it was like, hey man, like kids are watching you now. That 8-year old who saw when I was 8, I saw people on TV like that kid's watching you now. So you have to be real careful about what you say and what you do, and more importantly, how you say it, how you do it, because that kid's watching,
Hmm.
and that kid's going to want to grow up to be just like you one day. Are you presenting the best version of yourself for that young person to grow up to become? And that was a question I had to really like ask myself, especially when I'm wrestling, especially when I'm, putting out this content for people to see because I put out there for everybody.
Hmm.
And I always want to have the best version of myself for the world to see. Now, granted, I mess up. I'm human. I'm going to continue to mess up. It is what it is. I was like, but at the end of the day, like I still want to be a good person, and I never want that to be washed away. Like, no, man. Despite everything, he was a good person. If I'm going to be someone, I want to be just like him because he was a good person. So representation is huge. Representation is everything. Um, but at the same time, I don't want to be a charity case. I'm not here to fill a number. I'm not here to check a box. I'm here because I'm good. I'm here because I am the best at what I do, and there's nobody like me.
Hmm.
I'm here because you want me to be here, not because I have to be here.
Right.
And that's a very fine line that sometimes it gets a little blurred a little bit when we start talking about like representation. Like, now I get it, representation matters, but I want representation because you want them there, not because you have to have.
And because they've earned it and they deserve to be there
Exactly.
too, based on their merits and their ability.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
just like I'm a very good professional wrestler. I just so happen to be black.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So where do you stand status wise with Ring of Honor? Is it kind of are you kind of moving forward with an exclusive deal? Is that talks for that? I mean, where does it stand now?
We're right now we're just kind of moving forward with it. There's been talks, but nothing official. Um, Phones open, guys. So it's there's been talks. It's been no secret that like Ring of Honor is where I want it to be. It's no secret that like Ring of Honor is where I always strive to be. Um, because it just is. Like I put that out in the universe. Like this is what I want. This is what I want to do. But at the end of the day, there's people above me making a lot more decisions than I am, getting paid a lot more money than I am to make those decisions. It's just I have to make sure that the at the end of the day, I take away every reason for them to say no. That way, it's just a unanimous yes.
Hmm.
you know. And if they don't want me after that, well, that's something completely different. So we'll
Hmm.
go from there. But I would like to like spend the rest of my career there, just because it's where I want to be. Because the chance I get to work with guys like Shane Taylor, get to work side by side with guys like Kenny King, Jay Lethal, John Compression, you know, all that good stuff. Like these are the guys like I've always wanted to work with, and to now I'm in the room with them, and it's not so much of I'm just another guy. Like, no man, he's here now. Like that means a lot. And that feeling is something I'm not really ready to give up just yet.
Right. All right. And before we let you go, you mentioned kind of creating content and being a presence on social media. Why don't you kind of let people know where they can find this
Sure,
and
man.
find
You
you?
can find me. Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter, man. The Big Bad Kaiju on Twitter, all one word. You can find me on Instagram, Big Bad Kaiju, a dot after every word. You could probably find me on Facebook, but like, good luck. Like I tell people all the time, your friend request will get lost with all the other ones, just because it just does. Um, I'm pretty active on social media. I like to be very engaging, for the most part, on social media. I call my account like a giant, tire fire sometimes, just because I throw some off the wall stuff. I like to be funny. It is what it is. But yeah, man, come find me, come talk to me. Let's talk wrestling. I love that stuff. We'll do it all day long.